This video has been sponsored by Squarespace. This is my Category S insurance write-off Jaguar F-Type SVR, and if you don't know already, I bought this car crash damaged from an eBay listing, and then we've proceeded to turn it from the crash damage example which I bought to a fully restored working example like you can see here. And in this video we're going to go over how much it's cost me to do that and whether I'm in the green or in the red. But in order to look at the cost of rebuilding this Jaguar, we've got to have it completely finished. So in the last video you will have thought my Jaguar F-Type was completely done and boxed off, and while that might look the case from a distance, up close this is so far from the truth. And there is multiple reasons why this is the case. Firstly, the wheels are mismatched. We have one black one on the front, the rest are grey and also have curb damage, so that all needs sorting out. So the first stage to getting this car completely finished is sending the wheels off for refurb at the wheel specialist in Leicester. So we have those removed from the car and loaded into the van. But the question is now, what colour do I do them? Honestly, I can't decide. I originally put this to you guys. I gave the option between silver with blue calipers and grey with red. 51% of you chose grey with red on my Instagram. It's just there, go follow me. I'm not gonna lie, I had cold feet for a bit. I was gonna use my vote to overpower that 1% and do silver with blue. And now I'm thinking about it some more, I still can't decide. So I'm going to let the guys at the wheel specialist get the wheels stripped before I make my final decision, so we'll check back later in the video to see what I've gone for. So while waiting for the wheels to come back, it seems like the prime opportunity to take advantage of the car being in the air without wheels on. And we're going to do that by painting the calipers, because I'm not the biggest fan of the blue car with the red brakes. The combination just doesn't quite work for me. But on top of that, the paint on the caliper on the back has gone really dull and faded and started chipping away, so if I'm going to have to paint it anyway, I may as well change the colour. So to get these ready for paint, the first thing that I've got to do is get all the loose paint off the back ones. Now, because the front caliper's in pretty good condition, all I need to do is give them a good rub down. And now that's done and they are fully clean and degreased as well. The next stage is to mask off the car, because the last thing I'd hate to do is get overspray all over this lovely fresh paint. So we've got to get this on there like that. Then to mask off the calipers, something like that. Now I'm going to mask off the back section of the disc and everything like that just with like a carrier bag. I've just gone into detail around these areas with masking tape, and now we should be ready for some primer. Now I'm going to use an aerosol etch primer for this because it helps then the paint bond to the bare metal parts, and hopefully not going to have any problems with flaking in the future. So the calipers are now ready for their base coat. I'm going to put you guys out here because I don't want my camera getting covered in overspray, and I'll check back in with you when it's done. So it is now the next day and the calipers are done. As you can see, I've done them in Porsche Speed Yellow, and I am pretty happy with the way they've turned out. I've managed to put the Jaguar logo back into it, clear coat it in, and it's looking, well, I think a really nice contrast with the blue. Don't worry about the little bit of paint on the disc, that'll come off as soon as I drive down the road. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And also now the wheels are back from refurb. As you can see, I've gone slightly different to what I normally would. This is just like an anthracite colour, which I think works quite well with this style of wheel. I nearly went for silver, but I did stay away from it. You guys told me to go grey, so I went grey. You also told me to keep the calipers red, but we'll gloss over that. Now the only thing with these is because they've now been refurbished, we have lost the SVR logo, which goes just here. And also, I think it's the ideal time to protect them. So I can apply the little SVR decal to the alloy, and then we can ceramic coat them to make cleaning and maintenance easier. Some of you may already know this, but I am actually a professional detailer, but I wouldn't have been able to run that business if it weren't for Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one tool to help you build and run your own website. They make it so easy for even a novice to build a professional standard website to help you get the most out of your business. Using Squarespace's easy-to-use online software, you can easily build the perfect website to help grow and develop your business. You can drag and drop photos and videos, but don't worry if you haven't got your own photos yet, Squarespace has a great portfolio of high-resolution images for you to use too. And once you've done that, Squarespace automatically generates you a mobile-friendly version of your website as well. And even better than that, they even have online tools to help you get the most out of your website, such as online marketing, SEO, and even e-commerce. So to start getting the most out of the internet, go to squarespace.com and use discount code ChrisSlix, and this is going to save you a whole 10% off your first website or domain name. Thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it. The wheels have now got the SVR logo back in place and also protected. And the great thing about doing this is that ceramic coating will help lock in the vinyl which we've put on the alloy. While the car is up in the air and while the wheels are curing, I'm going to have a quick nose behind this wheel arch lining because I think we're having a bit of a problem with the math sensor that are wired in. So you may remember from when we were painting the car, I rewired this MAF plug-in and, well, it's not been working perfectly. Occasionally what I'm getting is an engine management light pop-up, the outside temperature on the car display dropped to -40 degrees, and also a warning for the MAF sensor pop-up, but it's only very occasionally, so I don't think it's a fault with the MAF. If it is, I do have a spare one, but I don't think it's that. I don't think it's the plug itself, I think just the wiring isn't quite 100%. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to strip back what I've done, and also go a little bit further back and inspect up there, and rewire the plug using the same sort of connectors, but just do it a bit better. So all I'm going to do here is cut off each connector, strip back the wire, like that. And then I can reconnect the wires using a new connection with a clear casing so I can see that the wire is in exactly the right place. And there is it all redone. I'm actually a little bit happier with it as well, because before we used connectors which are like this, which are quite big and chunky, whereas this time we use little diddy ones like this, which I think will get a much better connection on such a small wire. So I've started the car up, the engine management light's not come on, but only time will tell because it was an intermittent fault. And if it hasn't fixed it, then I'm going to start scratching my head a bit. And even though those connectors are waterproof, I have retaped it anyway. So there we have, the wheels are now back on in a freshly refurbished and protected state with the SVR logos, and the calipers are painted in Porsche Speed yellow. Now I know the yellow calipers is kind of copying the ceramic brake look, but it just contrasts the blue perfectly and really pops behind these nice new fresh wheels as well. Now the next thing is this number plate light, which is a little bit annoying because they don't sell just this light on its own. You've got to buy the full trim piece here, and I have got the new piece from Jaguar here. It was only £80, which I don't think is too bad all in, and it does come with the new section of loom, so I don't have to bother repairing the one on the car. So luckily this comes off a little bit easier than it looks. All you've got to do is pop off these 4 caps, which then reveal 4 bolts, which you've got to remove, and the whole trim comes down. You can then pull the loom out of the car and disconnect the plug, and then it's straight back in with the new one. Nice, quick, easy little fix. Now, the interior. This is the one piece of the car which has been the most annoying, and it's this glove box. Ever since day one, it's never closed, and I can't for the life of me figure out why, but luckily new glove boxes don't cost a fortune. So I can remove the glove box which we've got in the car at the moment by popping off the side trim and then removing one of the T30s, and there's 2 inside the glove box up top and then 2 in the footwell underneath the glove box. And then it's in with the new one, and time to see if it's going to work. And here we go. Still exactly the same. If anything, more annoying this time because it squeaks when it comes down. I'm scratching my head on that one a little bit really, because this one doesn't latch when it's off the car either. Neither does my old one. They both behave exactly the same. So maybe this one's a faulty one as well. I suppose that could be possible, but if anyone can help with that, please do down below, I'm desperate. Now the next thing on the car is a slight modification to the interior. And that brings us down to the guys at Vibe Belts, who are going to do something to make these seat belts look a little bit more interesting. And I'm a little bit stumped here on what to go for, because these guys can do all sorts of different colours on your seat belts to pretty much whatever you want, but nothing really goes perfectly with the interior on the SVR. But the good news is I can afford to do something a little bit more daring, because I've got 2 sets of seat belts for the F-Type, so that means that even if I don't like it or the next owner doesn't like it, they can be swapped out super easy. So I am really struggling to see what's going to go best with the interior on the SVR, because it's got all this blue splattered everywhere, and sometimes contrast is the best option. So that's why we're going to go for yellow. Like I said, this is completely reversible because we've got a second set of belts. But Cal, over to you, my friend. Perfect. So Cal sets about stripping back one of the sets of seatbelts that we've got to remove the black webbing from them, to replace it with this gorgeous new golden yellow webbing. And before I can even blink, we have one Vibey seatbelt. So there's the before, there is the after, and as you've seen from the clips, we're not actually messing around with any of the airbag parts of the seatbelt, it's just replacing the webbing itself, so it will definitely be perfectly safe. And now the new seat belts are all made up and ready to go in the car, so we can start fitting those up by removing some of the trims behind the seats, and unbolting the original black seat belts and replacing them directly with the new yellow ones. I know these are out there, but they've definitely grown on me and I really like them now. They may not be to everyone's taste, but they're definitely to mine. And there we go. What do we think? I know the yellow is a bit out there and it's a bit of a contrast to all of the blue on the inside, but I think it does break it up. None of the other blues perfectly match what was going on here, so sometimes a contrast is the best option. And it definitely sets off the yellow calipers, which we did earlier. So if you want to spice up your interior with some funky coloured seat belts, or even get something maybe a little bit more subtle, vibe belts, the links and all the details are in the description. But now all of that's done, we can have a look at how much this car actually cost. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you back to what previously was the bonnet of impending financial doom, but is now the bonnet of crippling financial reality. So as I promised earlier in the video, we're going to be going over how much it's actually cost me to take my Category S Jaguar F-Type SVR from a wrecked example to a roadworthy example. But let me tell you, while this has been one of the most enjoyable projects I've ever done, financially it's been stressful. So the first cost in rebuilding this car was the actual purchase price of the car. Now this I didn't think at the time was too bad, and this came in at 27,500 Great British pounds, which I think for a 1 of 400 5-year-old car with 15,000 miles, which new was over £100,000, is not too bad. So then the first cost we incurred from there was a new steering rack. You may remember we had some problems trying to find the right one, but we did get there eventually in the end at a cost of £617. Expensive, but not too bad considering a new one was about £3 grand. And once the car was steering again, we could then start looking at the running gear. So we had to buy a wheel next because the original one had a hole in the back of it, and that came in at 364 quid. Next up is a tyre for that wheel, and that was £85. Then we had to change the whole corner of suspension because the bottom arm had been ripped out of the hub. We wanted to replace every single part of that corner of suspension to make sure there was no hidden damage there. But again, this was pricey. For a corner of suspension on an F-Type SVR with all of the arms and the shock and the spring and everything like that was £1,440. Then the first win of the build, the BDS actuators. These are what deploy when you're in a crash, which makes the bonnet go up for pedestrian safety, and normally both of these deploy, but on this occasion only one did. So only cost us 215 quid. And then the tricky part is the cost of the panels, because originally we thought we could get loads of parts second hand for the SVR, whereas it turned out this simply wasn't the case. There's a lot of listings online for things being for an F-Type SVR, where in fact they were just for a normal F-Type, which was no good. So in the end, we ended up having to go to Jaguar for quite a lot of body panels, and trust me, it wasn't cheap. The first bunch of parts we had to get was the bumper, the side skirt, the inner wing, and also a bunch of other little bits as well. Now I'm just going to bunch this into one total bill because it's a lot easier that way, and all of this came to £4,508. Pricey, but that wasn't it. We have a second bill with Jaguar, because originally we thought we could replace this bonnet because it is just an F-Type all-wheel drive bonnet, but there was none available second hand again. One that I did try to buy then got unlisted when I tried to buy it, so we had to go brand new to Jaguar. And we also got a couple of other little bits while we were there, but nothing too mad. And this bill came in at another £1,500. If I'm being completely honest, we also had a little bit of help from someone at Jaguar making those prices a tiny bit better, and even then it still stung. But luckily we have had a lot more help than just that. We bumped into someone who was building an F-Type LM, a one-off race car, and finishing that as a project, and in that he had basically 2 cars worth of parts, which he was happy for me to go and help myself to. So from Dan we managed to get the wheel arch liners, we managed to get the dashboard, we managed to get the steering wheel airbag, we managed to get the dashboard airbag, and a set of seat belts which I somehow lost, along with a couple of other bits as well. And not only that, one of the companies which accidentally incorrectly listed a bumper then contacted me saying, "Chris, we're really sorry that happened. If there's anything we can do to help, let us know and we will." And they did. So they sent us out a headlight for the car, which saved us about £1,000. Also they sent out a grille, which is about £700 or £800, and then also an SVR rear diffuser as well, which saved about £300. So in total, that was about a £2 grand saving, and I could not appreciate that more. And trust me, without that, I think this project would have been in the bin. So to account for that, I'm going to put a thing here for freebies and put it in brackets, but I won't put it to the total cost of the build. But that just goes to show, without people helping out and without companies like such as Raptor Customs, who helped us out in the last video getting the car serviced and everything, these builds really would not make sense. Then next up, the dashboard. Because we got the standard F-Type dashboard from Dan, we had to get all of the parts changed over from the SVR dashboard to the standard one to make it look like that beautiful spec which the car is. And this wasn't too bad. This came in at 360 quid. And while we're on the subject of kind of interior and airbags, the cost of the seat belts was 127, and we also had to get the passenger side headlight, which came in at £900. Now for another heavy hitter, the price of the paint job, and this came in at a total of 3695, which I don't think that's too bad. And then I'm going to put a miscellaneous expenses category for things like recovery, locking wheel nut removal, MOT, a bit of oil here and there, and just bits and bobs like that. We'll include the wheel spaces in that as well, and we'll put it at £700. So that's everything that we'd spent up to this video. But as you've seen, I've spent more. So the first thing we did in this video was got the wheels refurbed, which was about 400 quid. And then the price of a glove box, which has gone in the bin, that's another 40 quid. And then we've got the number plate light trim, which was 80 quid. But it still doesn't stop there. Also, we haven't factored into the cost of this, the windscreen, which Liam broke for us and did a cracking job of it. That's £1,000. And there's still a few more parts to buy. We need a front under tray for the car because the one on the car is a bit damaged. We need a rear towing eye cover. This one's nice and cheap, it's 30 quid. We also need some gas struts for the bonnet, which are only £40. I've ordered another glove box, which is another £80. And I think that just about covers up to where we are now. So the question is, what is the total? Well, give me 5 minutes, but in your time is going to be 2 seconds, and I'm going to add all this up and we'll figure it out. And here we go, the grand total. And even though we've had a bit of help on this build, trust me, this still stings. Our total cost is £44,074. Ow. Now originally when I set out to build this car, I set myself a target of £40,000 as a total cost for the rebuild, but we did have a couple of unexpected costs along the way, and also an unavailability of parts as well, which was unexpected because obviously I did do some research before I bought the car, but unfortunately it turned out that that research I did was useless because those parts weren't available. So the question is, did I get a good deal? Well, I don't know. Realistically, I think if you were building this car and trying to make a profit on it, probably not, because if you didn't have the help from people like I have, which I've been super fortunate to, like Dud at Raptor Customs, like Dan with that F-Type LM, I believe it was Richard at Car Bumpers on eBay, realistically I'd be another 4,000 into this car, making the total about 48,000. And that is very borderline to whether it's worth it or not, because originally when I was buying this car, there was only one other car which I could base my price on, and that was a red example with over double the mileage. It had 40,000 miles where mine had 15,000 miles, and also it was a year older, making it a pre-facelift as well, and also it's red, which I don't think is as nice. And this originally was up for 47.5. If I'd have done it for £48,000 and that one would have sold for that, then I'd have probably been just about okay and more or less breaking even, but it didn't. That car has since been dropped in price. So when I originally bought the car, it was up for 47.5, then it went down to £45,000. Like I said, this car is a year older and has over double the mileage of mine, so it's going to be worth a little bit less. And also I think it does genuinely add value rebuilding these cars with videos to evidence every step of the way exactly how the car is. But trust me when I say there's not going to be a lot of profit in this build, which is unfortunate because I have put my heart and soul into making sure it's right and making sure that it's the best it can possibly be. But it's definitely not a complete loss because I've enjoyed every step of the way. I hope you guys have too, and hopefully with your continued support we can continue to do cool builds like this, because without you guys watching and without the support from our sponsors, these builds really would not be happening. But I hope you guys have enjoyed the F-Type build as much as I have doing it and sharing it with you. But for now, if you're not subscribed, please do consider doing so. The button's just down below. Make sure you like this video, and I'll catch you next time.